This is Elon Local News on WSOE 89.3. Here are the stories making headlines across the globe today.
He was sentenced to life plus 1,000 years, but late last night, he cut his life short. 52-year-old Ariel Castro was found hanging in his jail cell by a bedsheet. Prison staff attempted to revive him, but failed. The Ohio State University Wenner Medical Center pronounced Castro dead at 10:52 last night. Ariel Castro pled guilty to 937 counts last month, including kidnapping and murder, after 3 women were found in his Cleveland home, where he had held them for more than a decade.
1 student was killed. 3 were injured at a Texas high school this morning. The stabbings happened around 7:10 a.m. Central Time during a confrontation at Spring High School, located about 20 miles north of downtown Houston. Students were kept in classrooms for safety and to allow authorities to investigate. Harris County Sheriff Adrian Garcia believed the 3 students who were detained were the only persons of interest to have in custody.
It's Wednesday at 6 o'clock. That means it's time for the first ELN Radio of the Year on 89.3 WSOE. I'm Alex Rose.
And I'm Brennan McDavid. Here's what's coming up today on the show.
For the past few weeks, Syria's civil war has been all over the news. Not sure what exactly is going on? I look at what you need to know about Syria.
Another downtown Elan fixture is experiencing some major changes, including a new owner.
And many students complete unpaid internships while at Elan. But are they worth the cost? Our Carly Hildyard spoke with students to see what they thought.
All that and more coming up on ELN Radio.
Tonight with continuing coverage, West End Bar has officially been sold. Our Joe Bruno is live in the newsroom with more. Joe, what's going on?
Well, Alex, Brennan and Alex, this is what happened. Around 11 a.m. today, we received a tip that West End Station was coming to a close. So we immediately investigated, and we have confirmed that it is not closing, but there will be a new owner. The new owner's name is Harold Hill III, and he used to be a line chef at the Root. The current owner, Josh Ezrine, did not want to comment on the closure, but he did say drinks will be dirt cheap on Sunday. Now, West End Station has a market value of $379,784, according to the Alamance County Registers of Deeds office. However, we do not know how much money was involved in this transaction. Stick with us for more information. Live in the newsroom, I'm Joe Bruno.
Thanks, Joe. Be sure to stay with Elon Local News as we continue to cover this story.
And coming up, I looked into what you need to know about the situation in Syria. Stick with us. Welcome back to ELN Radio on 89.3 WSOE. You've seen it in the news the past few weeks, but what does it all mean? Here are some of the basics. Bashar al-Assad became president of Syria in 2000 when he took over for his father, who had been in office since 1971. After a series of protests, Assad ordered a crackdown and military sieges on the pro-rebel opposition to snub the recent civil war. Since the crackdown, many Western countries, along with some pro-Western Arab states, have called for al-Assad's resignation from presidency. The major opposition group, the Syrian National Coalition, led by Ahmad al-Jarba, holds many strongholds outside the Syrian capital of Damascus. On August 21st, footage started to flood the internet showing victims of alleged chemical weapon attacks outside of Damascus by the regime. The victims were visibly sick adults and children in makeshift hospitals with no external injuries. Secretary of State John Kerry said samples of hair and blood have been tested, and they have reported positive for signatures of sarin. Sarin is a deadly nerve gas developed by Nazi scientists in 1938. The gas kills by crippling the respiratory center of the central nervous system and paralyzes the muscles around the lungs. In 1993, the United Nations Chemical Weapons Convention was signed by 162 member countries, banning the production and stockpiling of many chemical weapons, including sarin. According to the Huffington Post, the UN estimates that 7,500 people have been killed in Syria's uprising. Using sarin crosses an international red line, and Obama has involved Congress in a decision on what the United States' role will be in the possible conflict to come.
Thanks, Alex. Many Elon students complete internships during the summer, either paid or unpaid. Our Carly Hilliard talked to 2 Elon students who had unpaid internships to see if they felt that they were worth the costs.
I definitely do have mixed feelings about it.
Junior Matt Feather worked more than 600 hours for minor league baseball team, the Bowie Bay Sox, this summer, but he wasn't paid.
I did get the great experience from it and learned a lot, but at the same time, I wish I had gotten compensated a little bit because I did do a lot of work.
And Feather isn't alone. Senior Jacob Grady also had an unpaid internship and says he did just as much work as some of the paid employees.
I'm doing the same kind of work that my boss is doing. Whenever he's too busy or can't be in, he's giving his jobs for the day. So he gets paid for it, but I haven't.
Completing these internships for credit also comes with a cost. Elon charges students $443 per credit. Grady paid $886 for his 2-credit internship, and Feather worked enough to get 6 internship credits, totaling more than a $2,500 charge to his tuition bill.
Can't buy groceries with experience.
These unpaid internships may not pay the bills, but Director of Experiential Education, Pam Grumbach, says that doesn't always stop Elon students from taking them.
Whether they're paid or unpaid, we see the payoff of students doing internships.
Internships can be expensive, but Brumbaugh says the networking opportunities students receive make paying worth it.
But let's rename it. Let's call it, instead of unpaid, let's call it pay it forward. That idea is that the payoff is so great from doing an internship.
Feather and Grady both say their experiences were worth the money, but they agree they won't do an unpaid summer internship again. Carly Hilliard, Elon Local News.
While you may have been working at your internship or relaxing at the pool this summer, construction workers were hard at work on Elon's campus. As students arrived on campus, 3 new buildings were opening. 2 global neighborhood buildings housing more than 300 students are fully operational. The Martin Alumni Center is located in the old financial planning office behind the library and features a lounge area and patio area. And in the Mosley Center, a brand new student hangout is in the works. Replacing both Fireside Lounge and Octagon Cafe, the lounge will have plenty of space for students to work, talk, and study.
Coming up after the break, an Elon student speaks out about her use of a drug rising in popularity.
And later, our Sky Cowens investigates students' rights when it comes to the enforcement of underage drinking laws.
Welcome back to ELN Radio. It's a drug that's been gaining attention across the country for its increasing dangers on young people. I spoke with one Elon student who had a scary encounter with a popular party drug. 2 people died Saturday at a music festival in New York. The cause of death, Molly, a pure form of MDMA, which is the main ingredient found in ecstasy. Aside from this most recent tragedy, the drug has been gaining popularity, being referenced in songs by Kanye West and Miley Cyrus. According to a Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration survey, the number of people reported having used Molly increased by 60% from the year 2005 to 2011. I spoke with an Elon student who tried the drug while studying abroad in Argentina.
A couple of friends of mine decided to go to an electronica music festival.
So she tagged along. The night took a turn for the worse when one friend offered her Molly.
And so we'd emptied the powder into a water bottle and kind of mixed it up.
She took 2 sips and joined the crowd in front of the stage.
It hit me like a ton of bricks.
The effects of the drug started to kick in.
All I could remember was I was staring at my roommate's hat, and I was swaying with the music and just focusing on his hat. And in my mind, I knew something was wrong. But I was like, it's okay, Jake's hat's here,
She then passed out on the ground. Her friend had to carry her to a nearby medical tent.
When I came to, my legs were at a 90-degree angle because they were trying to get the blood back to my brain.
After being treated, she was able to return home, but the experience was eye-opening.
It wasn't a smart thing to do, and I look back on that now, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm lucky I made it out alive.
Now, Alex, her story was pretty crazy, and it's weird to think that people don't always get the attention that they need if they're in this situation. She was lucky enough she actually didn't know the guy that took her to the medical tent, which was amazing because she was very lucky to have him there.
Yeah, especially since it's such a taboo subject. I feel like drugs aren't really highlighted as much as alcohol use usually on college campuses. Well, in addition to drug use, Elan police officers often have to handle underage drinking. Our Sky Cowens looked into the rights students have if they're caught drinking underage.
I think everyone thinks when cops are coming, run, but that makes you look even more suspicious when you're running away.
I know you can refuse a breathalyzer, but I think there's a consequence to that.
If I just saw a police officer, I would try to walk by as sober as possible.
It's unclear to some Elon students how to react when approached by a police officer, especially when they've been drinking underage. Attorney Christina Marshall says it's important for students to know their rights.
When an officer actually says, hey, stop, or let me ask you a few questions, you're not free to leave.
But there are some situations when it's fine to walk away.
If an officer comes up to you and you're just hanging out and says, hey, how about the Phoenix? How about your classes? You're still free to go, but the officer during that conversation can develop his reasonable suspicion and therefore initiate an investigation.
Marshall says if an officer suspects you are intoxicated, you have the right to remain silent and refuse consent to search. But there are a few things to keep in mind.
If you're not going to exercise your right to remain silent, then be polite and courteous, because running or being a jerk can just add to the amount of charges that an officer can charge you with.
If you're holding an open container of alcohol in any public area, you can be charged, even if you're 21.
The city ordinance translates to a Class 3 misdemeanor, which is a criminal conviction on your record, and it will show up.
Chief of Elan Campus Police Dennis Frank says when it comes to being stopped by the police, honesty is the best policy.
Truthfulness goes a long way. Not turning around and running goes a long way. Again, truthfulness is always a good characteristic to present.
One college student made headlines last weekend after drinking a dangerous amount of alcohol.
Our Lauren Cook is here in the studio with more. Lauren, I saw the story earlier but didn't get the chance to dig in. What happened?
Well, thanks, guys. Now, what if more than a third of your blood was alcohol? For one University of Iowa student nicknamed Vodka Girl, this became a reality when she was arrested at the Northern Illinois-Iowa game after allegedly trying to jump onto the field. Samantha Lynn Goody, a 22-year-old student, was stopped as she attempted to go on the field. The police report states that Goody was unsteady on her feet. At the time, she had a blood alcohol content of 0.341, which is 4 times the legal driving limit and has results similar to the effects of surgical anesthesia. Now, despite her viral mugshot picture and arrest, Goody is also famous for her Twitter account, where she bragged about her 0.341 BAC level and other alcohol-related adventures. Her Twitter handle, @vodka_Sam, is public. Here are some examples of what she has shared recently. Just went to jail, #YOLO. Blew a .341 in jail. I'm going to get .341 tattooed on me because it's so epic. Girl waiting for court with me goes, I wish I knew the girl who blew a .341. I said hi. I've gotten so many hate tweets because I was drunk. I get good grades. Sorry for being like every other college student. There have been no updates yet on how Goody is doing since the incident, but Alex Brennan, she certainly has made a name for herself. In the studio, Lauren Cook, Elan Local News.
Thanks, Lauren. Coming up on ELN Radio, a local park got some new renovations this week thanks to a special donor. We will tell you who after the break.
Welcome back. An Elon-affiliated program shut its doors for good last week. The director of Loaves and Fishes in Burlington, Brenda Allen, released a statement Saturday night saying the food pantry closed because of financial reasons.
The statement says, we greatly regret having to close our doors in this manner, but we feel we had no choice. The statement comes after a message was posted on the door of Loaves and Fishes last week.
The Kernodle Center at Elan worked with Loaves and Fishes and will be working with Alamance County leaders to begin discussing a plan for future food distribution starting this week.
It's a movement that started at the end of last semester, but 4 months later, Moral Monday protesters still want the same thing. They want lawmakers in Raleigh to listen.
The Moral Monday protest turned into Moral Wednesday this past week to honor the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s March on Washington. Protesters gathered in 13 locations across the state, including Greensboro and Chapel Hill, for their largest protest yet.
The gatherings are led by members of the NAACP who are unhappy with some of the recent changes in North Carolina by the Republican-led state legislature. Protesters are voicing their concerns about new voter ID laws, public education cuts, and limits on the expansion of Medicare. More than 900 people were arrested in the last few months, but protesters still want their voices to be heard.
Earlier in this year, when the Moral Monday movement was getting started, I thought that it was really important, as a young person, as someone who just got the right to vote a few years ago, to come down and to be involved.
Elon community members will have a much nicer place to walk, talk, and relax. Ballpark Avenue's Lawrence Slade Park is getting a facelight. Our Joe Bruno has more.
He's the coach of University of Missouri's men's basketball team, and today he's making a donation to help redo Elon's Lawrence Slade Park. With a nice donation from Frank Haith, the Lawrence Slade Park is now getting redone. There will be an improved picnic shelter, a play set, and handicap-accessible paths to the park. According to park officials, without the donations, improvements would have taken another 4 or 5 years. Joe Bruno, Elon Local News.
Just as Slade Park was redone, the city of New Orleans is still recovering after Hurricane Katrina. Our Addie Haney talked to one Elon student whose life was changed forever that day.
Freshman Angelique McKenna started the school year just like any other freshman at Elon. But only 8 years ago, what should have been a normal start to her 5th grade year was interrupted in a big way by Hurricane Katrina.
My mom just had a feeling that it was going to be worse than the meteorologists thought it would be.
McKenna was only 9 years old when her family fled the Category 5 storm that busted levees and flooded the streets of New Orleans.
I had this little pink roller backpack and I had maybe 4 outfits in it.
But after only a few days, McKenna realized going home was not an option.
I remember watching that footage on TV. It was just surreal, you know. And I think at that age, I didn't really understand what was happening. I mean, I was 9, so I just thought maybe in 2 weeks, we'll be able to move back.
McKenna was forced to move with her family to Maryland, where they lived in a hotel for 4 months. Cut off from friends back home, McKenna had to adjust to a new school and a new life.
It was kind of hectic that I had to figure out my schedule and what language I wanted to take, and with all of that, we were living in a hotel.
Despite all the obstacles, McKenna graduated and chose Elon as her new home, but she still wants people to remember the powerful impact Katrina had and still has today.
Just because issues aren't on the news daily or in social media all the time, that people are still struggling from them, that we should be mindful and thankful of what we have.
Addie Haney, Elon Local News.
Coming up, we meet a student that doesn't put his extra money in the bank. See what he does with it. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to ELN Radio on WSOE. Adjusting to college life can be difficult, but our Aurora Albemercier has some tips to help make the adjustment easier.
It's kind of like a game. You can always tell if you're winning. Am I beating the market?
College students aren't known for having a wealth of disposable income, but for those that do, simply putting it aside isn't your only option. Some invest their money.
No matter how small the amount, it's the habit that you want to develop. Most people, when they start investing, use mutual funds.
What is a mutual fund?
They aggregate dollars from various investors, and then with a larger pool of money, they invest it in a diversified portfolio of whatever. In buying a mutual fund, you're actually hiring a manager to invest as he sees fit.
Both advisors put emphasis on diversification. Diversification is important as it spreads your funds around by investing in a variety of assets. This reduces your risk in the event a stock doesn't do well. Sophomore Michael Keenan invests money he made at summer jobs and stresses the importance of knowing your stuff.
Either talk to people, familiarize yourself with all the terms in the stock market. I read books. I read 10 books.
While some are interested in investing, others are overwhelmed by the charts and all the data.
You have to educate yourself. You have to find someone you can trust if you want an advisor. You have to look at the products, and you have to monitor your success.
Everyone I spoke with mentioned starting early.
When you're in college, retirement seems like it's an eon away. Too many people today get too close to retirement before they realize that they haven't done what they needed to do in setting money aside.
Plus you get experience, so when you do have a lot of money to invest, you're like, I've already done this before, like I know what I'm doing.
Katie Marigny, Elan Local News.
And we're sorry for the mix-up. That was actually our reporter, Katie Marigny, who found one sophomore that uses his money to make even more money. Now we're going to toss over to our Aurora Albie-Mercier, who has some tips that will make the adjustment to college life a little easier.
The school year has just begun and everything is still fresh and new. But sometimes living on your own can be a challenge. Here's my survival guide to help you survive your first year here at Elan. Pro tip number 1, be on time to class. Depending on your professor's syllabus, being even 5 minutes late could mean an absence. So follow this rule. Early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable. Pro tip number 2, know where the health center is. Odds are, you're gonna need it. The Ellington Health Center moved to South Campus, which can be confusing to find. Walk under the railroad tracks and down O'Kelly Street. The health center is open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pro tip number 3, go to College Coffee. College Coffee is every Tuesday from 9:40 to 10:20 here at the Phi Beta Kappa Plaza. It's a great time not only to get free food and free coffee, but also to talk to professors outside of class. If you're lucky, you can even spot President Lambert. Pro tip number 4, laundry time. Try to do your laundry on off times. Sundays are peak laundry time, and there's going to be competition for washers and dryers. And if you don't want your laundry to turn out pink, make sure to separate your colors. Those are my top tips for surviving your first year at Elan. I'm Aurora Albie-Mercier for Elan Local News.
Our Joe Bruno sat down with University President Leo Lambert to talk about the past, present, and future of Elan.
In an exclusive interview with Elan Local News, President Lambert told us why this year will be special compared to the other 125 years of Elan.
We're going to dedicate the new Martin Alumni Center. We're going to plant 125 trees in various parts of campus. I'm looking forward to the release of Professor George Troxler's book in March for Founders Day, a new, wonderful history of Elan that's richly illustrated with a lot of historical photographs. Everybody who loves Elan is going to want to have a copy of this book. So there are some really great opportunities to just stop and think about where we've come from.
To see the full interview of President Lambert, check our website tomorrow, elanlocalnews.com.
Now that was the future of Elan. Let's go to the future of chicken on Elan's campus. One of the newest changes to Elan campus dining is the new menu options at Varsity, or rather what is no longer an option. Chicken sandwiches are no longer available at Varsity Grill. These options will be available next door in the soon-to-be Chick-fil-A. Elan Local News spoke to marketing manager for Elan Dining Services, Kate Nelson, about the new changes to Varsity.
After Chick-fil-A opens and after Biscuitville opens, if people aren't satisfied with those chicken options, we can always look into bringing it back to Varsity. But we just kind of wanted to switch up the menu to give more variety and also increase the speed of service in there as much as possible.
In Elan sports news, the men's golf coach Bill Morningstar retired at the end of last season. This year, the men's golf coach is brand new and excited to get going. Our David Perrell has more.
New head coach Don Hill is bringing change to the Elan men's golf team after taking over for Bill Morningstar.
He's a great guy. He's a great coach. If there was ever anything that you ever needed, he would be the first one I would ask.
In terms of what any coach could ask for, and leaving a legacy at Elan, Morningstar's nailed it.
Morningstar was a coach at Elan for more than 40 years. Former University of South Carolina head coach Don Hill was hired to replace Morningstar, and it was an offer he could not refuse.
Coach Blank, he really enticed me with the idea of building something special from a golf standpoint.
And Coach Hill's team understands that a new coach means new changes.
He's not like a drill sergeant by any means, but it's different from Morningstar in that he's got a very definite plan. He's very, intense about what we're doing and getting better.
And one change is the way the men's team is structured.
We've changed how we do our recruiting process. We've changed how we're going to structure practice. We've changed how we structure our communication, which is ultimately the most important thing we do.
While things have changed with the departure of Bill Morningstar, new men's head coach Don Hill hopes to bring the team together and win a conference championship. David Perel, Elon Local News.
Now, Elon Football has their first home game this weekend, Alex. I'm so excited, and it seems that they're trying to get a new push for tailgating.
Yeah, I mean, after that last weekend, a little bit of a defeat that we were handed, we're going to play West Virginia Wesleyan, and we're hoping that the odds will be more in our favor for that one. But the University Athletics are pushing for more of a tailgating presence on campus. I hear that you can park down at the practice fields with your car if you wish to, and set up a little tailgate session with your buddies. So that should be fun.
I think it's a good idea. I think Elon definitely needs to lift the spirits of these players. They're coming off a tough loss, so it's important that we have students out there cheering them on and lifting them up.
Absolutely. I really think that support for our athletic departments is something that SGA talked about, just definitely increasing that awareness and getting the Phoenix Fanatics back, just hyping it up. That's the way it should be.
I agree. And this Friday, we have the Org Fair.
Oh, yes. The Org Fair is going from 4 to 6 this Friday. Elon Local News will have its own table in conjunction with Society of Professional Journalists. WSOE will also have a table at the Org Fair, so you can scope them out and look for it there. So, yeah.
Well, that's all we have for ELN Radio Show, but you don't have to wait until next week to hear all the news from Elon. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and ElanLocalNews.com for news throughout the week.
For all of us on ELN and WSOE, have a great week, Elon.